My guest today is Jane Gavronsky, the new Chief Technology Officer for the FinTech Open Source Foundation, also known as FINOS. So FINOS describes itself as an independent 501k nonprofit organization with a mission to speed up collaboration and innovation in financial services by way of open source software standards and best practices. Most recently, Jane has served as the Managing Director and Global Head of Reference Data Technology Services for Credit Suisse. While at Credit Suisse, she helped drive enterprise-wide transformation initiatives and revamp the global operating model for the bank's technology organization. In addition, Jane has worked at several financial services firms and has produced technology solutions for trading, risk management, and business operations. So good morning, Jane, and congratulations on your new position. And I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about your background and a little bit about why you made the move from Credit Suisse to FINOS.
Hello, Eugene, and thank you for having me. It's great to speak with you today. Okay, so I'll start with my background. I earned my computer science degrees at Columbia University and Barnard College, and then joined as a trainee, as a technical associate at Goldman Sachs. And I got a unique opportunity there to work directly with business people to deliver technology. And what I realized was this is what I really enjoyed. I enjoyed working directly with users who put what I wrote as code, what I produced, to use right away. And we could interact and get immediate live feedback. And then I could, sort of give them really what they wanted in technology terms. And I really got excited about the potential of technology in financial services and how it could enable the business, how it could enable all of the various functions that in financial services need to happen in order to facilitate all these activities. And then I had the chance to work in many different functional areas. I worked in trading technology, I worked in risk management technology, I worked in operations, and as you said, most recently at Credit Suisse, I headed up the Global Reference Data Technology Group. And I saw the same thread, the same themes gave me personal and career satisfaction of delivering the best, most efficient, most cost-effective technologies that could be used and reused across the enterprise. Specifically in my Credit Suisse experience, I saw that very much with data. Running reference data, you realize how much everyone relies on this data to be correct, and how much essentially every functional area of the bank uses this information. So to deliver solutions that for hundreds of clients that we had that satisfy all of their needs, you needed to really think about how to make these solutions common, which is in many ways similar to making them very efficient and reusable. And those are the challenges that I like to tackle. And this is the opportunity I see in FINOS, except at even a bigger scale. FINOS is effectively at a crossroads of all the financial services participants. We work with sell-side firms, buy-side, fintechs, regulators, and individual contributors, and we try to bring them together to identify and approach solving the same common problems in an efficient and effective and open way. And that's what really attracted me. It's solving these problems at scale, but also seeing all the market participants and trying to match their needs.
Okay, so what does it feel like now to be the Chief Technology Officer for FINOS?
So it's still very early days, of course, for me. But like I said, I think it's an exciting time for FINOS, especially we are at a growth inflection point. There's a lot of momentum already. We have many members and many contributors who are collaborating on really key projects for the industry. And having a CTO gives me an opportunity to work across across the various firms to understand their needs. And I hope this is part of what I bring to the table, which is understanding what happens inside these firms from a technology perspective, and really to stimulate the conversations to bring the community together to discuss and approach the problems. So hopefully I will be able to do that, to allow Finos to enable the growth and the scale.
Some of our viewers may not be aware of what open source technology is. So could you just kind of quickly review that?
Sure. Open source is code written in the open, collaboratively by a community of developers who choose to work on common problems together in order to bring the best functionality and the best solutions to light. And the key here is the word open. Everything is done in the open. Anyone can contribute. Anyone can use the code. Of course, there's a defined community governance model and everyone participates. But the key word here is open technology, which is open for everyone to use and contribute to.
Okay. When I started covering Wall Street in '97, I was covering the sell side. And any technology that was written, any systems that were put in place, market data, reference data, and so forth, everything was very secretive. I would get exclusive stories on one large bank moving from one large provider to another one, and it was absolutely the opposite of the open source movement. But is the open source movement sort of having a moment for securities firms and other financial services firms?
Yes, and it is I would say it's not completely at a starting point, but it is definitely at a point where there is recognition for its potential to help these firms really focus on working on things that bring competitive advantage, but also to come together and to drive another key word for us, interoperability. Right. So everybody recognizes that they need to work together. They need to share information. In some cases, they need to be able to kind of speak the same technology language. And open source is the foundation that allows firms to do that. As I said, I'm going to be repeating these words: community, collaboration, bringing the best minds to work on the problems, creating efficiency by doing that. So, instead of everybody doing say 10 banks working on the same problem 10 times and being secretive about it, what the community realizes is that really there are components which bring the competitive commercial advantage, but in reality, there are many, many components which are basic and foundational, which are better off being worked on together collaboratively and without sort of the private licensing that you mentioned. So I think it's about to take off. The curve's about to get much steeper in terms of adoption of open source in financial services, and that's very exciting. And I think the other key word not to forget is efficiency and cost avoidance. You want to spend the money where it will bring you the greatest ROI, and not repeating the solution of the same problems.
Can open source technology help with enterprise transformations, enterprise-wide transformations, as you had put it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that it can definitely expedite the transformation of some of the legacy platforms. It could also bring some of the newer technology to be used much quicker. So whether it's because you need to change some of the operating components and you could collaborate on them across the industry, or because you want to move to the cloud, or you want to look at implementing some blockchain solutions, the open source will certainly expedite that process.
Mm-hmm. And Finos talks about some most prominent problems at financial services firms and how open source can can resolve some of those. What are some of those, I guess, key problems that they're thinking that you're going to be dealing with?
So some of the themes, and these are not all, but some of the key themes for us as I start to look at this are data modeling, desktop interoperability, regulatory compliance, cloud migration and enablement. And we actually have initiatives, projects, and special interest groups that focus on each of these areas. And these areas actually cut across the vertical functions in financial services. So it's very interesting. You could talk about data modeling. We have a platform that was recently contributed called Legend, which really facilitates and expedites data modeling and data standards. And we have multiple projects that we want to kick off in this space that are ongoing, and we want to kick off in this space. Desktop interoperability. We have a standard called FDC3, which is in wide use and will be expanded upon. We are convening many participants in an interest group around regulatory compliance and driving discussions around how the industry can come together to enable, facilitate, and expedite compliance with regulations. And we would love to bring regulators into that conversation as well. We've started that opportunity. And standards is another big word for us, and particularly in cloud enablement, we have started conversations around standards around cloud migration and how we can bring certification to the community to enable them to do this in a way which is compliant, secure, and again, does not repeat what everybody really needs to do. So do once, use many times.
And then on the cloud migration issue, there has been, we've seen it, a big push among firms to move to cloud native situations. So could you, for our readership, could you just, or our viewers, sorry, could you just kind of explain the difference between cloud migration and then cloud native? And
right now for us, I will defer that question for you because I have to say I need to dig into the project deeper and understand exactly what we're doing and what we're not doing in that space. So apologies, I'll defer that. Talk to me in 6 months. I'll tell you much more about it.
But I guess I'm sorry, but my point was there are situations that are cloud native where applications really are really benefiting from the use of cloud computing, whereas you had on-premise applications that are moved to the cloud, that cloud migration issue. But then a lot of firms are looking now toward cloud native situations, and I assume that FinUS will be a part of that with its open source efforts.
Certainly, I think. Well, having been at Credit Suisse, we were also starting to look at that difference. Of course, I cannot speak to this now because I'm not part of that solution, and everybody will be solving that a little bit differently. For us, again, what's important is having those conversations with all the participants and saying and finding the common thread. What we would like to bring, we would like to work on the problems that everyone agrees are common problems that they would like to collaborate on. That's, we're kind of at the center of that. So we focus on specific use cases that our constituents have, and we'd like to drive that very much, again, to me, listening to what people are telling us, not dictating, but listening and reacting and bringing together the relevant players and participants. And
many of our viewers today are focused on back office issues, post-trade operations, and you mentioned that many things that FinUS does will cut across many areas within a firm. Are there some things that we should be looking forward to as far as back office and operations from FinUS?
Yes, I think definitely the regulatory compliance theme, the data modeling theme, as well as the desktop interoperability, the FDC3, are all going to be very relevant to the back office technology participants as well.
Okay.
I mean, the way data travels through the organization and the ability to model that transformation, to work on data lineage, and to work on different standards around data modeling, that's a common thread across, and certainly touches the back office components very much.
And then does the open source movement, has it changed the culture? You work for a major firm, Credit Suisse. Does it change the culture of a firm?
I would not say that it, at least in my view today, again, ask me in 6 months and maybe things will change. But in my view today, I don't think it's so much about changing the culture of the firm as much as it is about bringing the best technologists and the participation of the technologists in those firms to a different level, enabling them to work across the community in a different way. As you mentioned, in the early days, everything was very secretive, right? Everything was don't give away anything, right? Don't talk to your peers in the industry, right? Open source, particularly for technologists, allows them to do that, to create a community that cuts across the industry and discuss in an open, without divulging any proprietary secrets, in an open way, solutions to common problems. And that's what's key. So I think it will energize specifically the technology community within financial services.
Right. Because I think it's gone from an absolute view that every single bit of technology is proprietary to there's a layer of technology that we all have to have, and that's really isn't where we compete, right? So but there's that layer where they will compete, and that's a different subject.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Is there anything I didn't touch on that you think is important?
Those are the areas: regulatory compliance, data, interoperability are the key ones. I'd love to know more about what your listeners are telling you, what your readers are telling you, because like I said, the themes that we want to react to are the themes that are top of mind for people. So
basically, I think, and basically it's bottom line, operations, middle and back office operations are seen more as a cost area. And I think one aspect of the open source effort is that, maybe there's a way to turn that around where it isn't strictly cost. Maybe some innovations in operations can then be monetized, weaponized, maybe even, and used to help the bottom line. But they're always under the gun to be more efficient, to drive down budgets, and with some open source efforts, there are ways to do that, to get really good technology, terrific technology, and maybe not have to hand over bundles of money to vendors. So I think that has a huge appeal.
Yeah, I hear you. I had to solve the same problems several times already in my previous roles. And I think especially around data, this is key. Data management, data manipulation, getting good quality data takes a lot of effort, both technical effort and human effort. But really what people are excited about, and I think this is one of the key themes alongside, say, cloud or blockchain on Wall Street, is how do I use the data? How do I harness it? But in order to use it, you first have to get it into the condition that it is usable and reliable. So all of that pre-work, so to speak, before you go to use it for your secret special sauce, right? Your special analytics, that could be shared. That is not secretive. Getting good quality data and going through the necessary data transformation that you may need, that is absolutely shareable and can be done in the open. So that would avoid significant amount of cost that goes into data management.
Okay. Well, again, congratulations on your new position. And thank you very much for your time this morning. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.